When it comes to statistical calculation, R programming is a very powerful tool, but many people get intimidated by its programming nature. So for all those who does not have any kind of prior knowledge of programming, I will teach you how to use R programming in your day-to-day calculations, and you don't need any kind of prior programming knowledge. My name is Saurabh and this is Sigma States, and today we will learn how to set up R and an IDE called RStudio in your operating system, whether it is Windows or Mac. So without any further ado, let's get started. So here we are in Google Chrome, and for downloading R programming, you just simply type R download in your Google search box and it will give you a link. The first link, which is from C10, CRAN, is your link to be followed. So here in our Google Chrome we have searched R download, and the link that is popping out at the very beginning, that is cran.rproject.org, is where you have to go. And when you click on this link, it will redirect you to the latest R that you can download, right? So right now the latest version of R for Windows is 4.1.0. so you simply click on this download R 4.1.0 for Windows, and it will automatically start the download process. So I will go to my download folder and I will click on save, right? So it will be downloaded in your download folder. So once R is being downloaded, the next thing that we will have to download is called RStudio. So you just simply type RStudio download for Windows and hit enter, and it will give you a link from their official website, which is rstudio.com. so go to this official website and click on download RStudio IDE. Now what is an IDE? IDE is an short form of integrated development environment. So IDE is that program where we normally write the programming language or the code for a specific programming language. RStudio is an open source IDE and it has various versions, right? So we have 4 different versions. One is RStudio Desktop, one is RStudio Desktop Pro, one is RStudio Server, and one is RStudio Workbench. Now for most of the work, RStudio Desktop is fine and is sufficient. So we will go and it is free. So we will go and download RStudio Desktop. So if you click on this download, it will take you to the section where you can choose between various download options. So we have for Windows 10, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Fedora, and all the Linux distributions. So since we are focusing on Windows, so we will click on this. So if you click on this, it will download RStudio 1.4.1717.exe, and the size is approximately 156 MB. So we will click on this. Now instead of this, you can also click and download a zip format, but this is what you need in most of the cases, the exe file, right? So here in download, I will select it and I will hit save, right? So we have finished downloading both R and RStudio. So once your download is complete, I suggest that if you are setting up R and R programming for the first time, you should install R first, then RStudio, right? So I will double click on this R 4.1.0 exe file. Once you double click on it, it will start the installation, right? So the default language, I am choosing English. Next, and this is the default location where you should install R, that is C program file R 4.1.0, hit next. Now here is something, it will automatically select both 32-bit and 64-bit files, but please don't uncheck, because there are some programs or some areas where you will need this 32-bit files also, right? Even though you are running a 64-bit operating system, there are some instances where 32-bit files may come handy. So I will click, and it will not make much of a difference. So I will click next, and then again next. So here is the option whether you want to associate or with the registry. These are default, so keep them checked. And here are two other boxes. If you want, you can check them. If you want a desktop shortcut, then you can click here. It will create a desktop shortcut of R. And if you want a quick launch shortcut, then you can click here. But I will suggest not to do this, because we are not going to use R programming, rather we are going to use the IDE that is called RStudio. So creating a desktop for R is not necessary. Then I will click next, and it will start the installation. The installation for R for Windows is finished. So once it is done, you can click on this finish button. It will automatically close. Now that we have installed R, I will quickly show you how you can open that R programming without even installing an IDE or RStudio. So once you clicked, you can see that your recently added option. If you don't see this option in your Windows, you can go and click on or search button. You can type R, and it will show you the installation, I guess. But here we can see that we have two installation. One is R and one is R64. The 64 is the 64-bit installation. So if you have not checked in your installation the 32-bit option, this will not appear. So I will click on this R64. So the R programming looks like this, right? This is the basic R programming without even any IDE. So you can compare the difference between this programming or this R console or this kind of GUI, that is a graphical user interface for R programming, and RStudio. They are quite different. So this is called console. So console is the place where you execute your code, right? So let me maximize this. So every time you open R console, you will be greeted with some kind of basic information about the R version that you are running. Right now we are running R 4.1.0, so that's why it is showing R version 4.1.0 and the date when this version was implemented. And this over here within quotation mark is the code name for every version. Every version in R has a code name. This version, that means 4.1.0, had a code name called Camp Pontenisen, right? So these are some basic information. It also gives you some idea about how you can go and find out some information, like if you type license, it will give you license, and if you type contributors, it will give you the contributors which contributed to this particular version. Now here this in console, and if you do any basic things, so I will go in depth about the various commands that we can use in R programming in our later sessions, but today I'll just give you a simple idea. If you are going to do a simple calculation like 5 plus 10, you can simply type it, click enter, and it will automatically show you the result 15, right? Similarly, if you want to do some subtraction, that means 15 minus 10, and it will give you the result. So this is console, where we actually implement the code. We write the code and the results are automatically shown if you want to show them, right? So this is our GUI, right? GUI, that is graphical user interface. Let me close this, and whenever you try to close, it will ask you whether you want to save the workspace image. Workspace image will save these outcomes in your system. Right now I will select no, and it will close. So after R, I will install RStudio. You will double click on this installation file, that is RStudio 1.4.1717.exe. double click on this and it will start the installation. So here is the installation page. We will click next, and the default location for your RStudio will be C program file RStudio. We'll click next, and this is the option install, and it will start the installation. So after some time your installation will be finished. So once installation finished, you will be greeted with this window, and you just click on finish. So once the installation is done, you can go back to your start menu and you can search for RStudio if it does not appear in your recently added. So you can go to the R section. Right here we have RStudio, and I will click on this RStudio icon. So it will open RStudio. RStudio is an IDE for your development of R programming, right? So here you can see that the same kind of information are also displayed here, but it looks completely different from what we have seen for the R GUI, right? So this is the basic information about the R versions. We have R version 4.1.0, the date, the same code name, right? And here the cursor is blinking, and this is where we write the code. So this is the console, and you can also see console is written at the top of this section. So RStudio has 4 different sections or 4 different panes, right? And right now you can see only 3, but if I go to file and new file and R script, this will open the 4th pane. These are the 4 different panes. So I will explain what these 4 different panes mean. So that is top right option where the cursor is blinking right now. It has a name untitled 1. So when you open a new R script, it will always be named as untitled, and the number will subsequently change. So if I click and create a new R script, it will be untitled 2, and you can also use the shortcut that is Ctrl+Shift+N. So if I click Ctrl+Shift+N, it will create a new script untitled 3. So what does this script mean? Script are basically notepads or notebooks where we save our code. So if you want to reuse your R programming codes in a later calculations also, you cannot save them from this console. So if I type if I type 5 plus 10 and enter and 15, I cannot save this calculation. But if I click here in this untitled 1, 5 plus 10, right, this is a code, and it does not execute the code, but basically this is just like your diary or your notepad where you write something and then you do the calculation in your calculator. The same process also applies here. So in script we will write the code, and in console we will execute them, and the results will always be displayed in console, not in your script, right? So this window, the top left window, is called a script window. The bottom left window is called a console window, right? The top right window is the environment or history window. You will have the environment, you will have history, you will have something called connection. Connections are for syncing your code with some repositories, right, like GitHub, etc. And with a recent version of RStudio, you also have something called tutorials where you can see how you can perform different tasks in R programming or RStudio. But we will not use this much. And the bottom right window or pane contains a lot of options. By default, it will open the file menu where you can go and select different files, open them in RStudio, right? You have plot. Every time you draw a diagram, this will show in your bottom right pane. You have packages. Packages are installed from this window. If you use the basic R GUI, that means that I have shown in the first, the R GUI, the installation of package is manual, but in RStudio you can install R with a very easy interface, right? Here also we have some help. Every time you type something, it will show you, say for example, mean, right? So if you click on this mean, it will give you an idea about how to perform arithmetic mean in R and different steps. So basically this is a helper tool. Similarly, viewer will be used if you render PDF or HTML in R. Yes, you can do that also. So the default pans are script, console, environment, and plot. These are the 4 different pans you will be using most, right? So you will write your code in script, or you can write your code directly into your console and it will be executed. So if you don't want to save your code, you can directly execute them or write them in a console. If you want to save your code for later uses, I suggest you to use the script pan, right? So this is R Studio. Now if you want to change the look of R Studio, that means if you want a dark background or a dark theme, you can do that also. If you want to move the different pans to right and left, you can do that also, right? So how you can do that? You can go to tools and global options. If you go to tools and global options, it will pop up a new window. This is the option window. Here under the general, you can select which version of R you want to use. So in your Windows or a Mac OS, you may have multiple R installed. Right now we have installed R 4.1.0, but in my Windows machine I have lot of R installed, right? I have 4.1, 4.1.0, 4.0.2 and 3.6.2, 3.5.3 and 3.222. Now someone may be wondering why I have so many R installed, because there are so many software that is based on different version of R. Like if you work on SPSS, it is integrated with R, and SPSS requires a older version of R. So that's why I have multiple R installed in my machine. So you can select the latest that is installed. So I have selected 4.1.0 and I have clicked OK. So you will have to restart. So that will be done later, right? And you can also select where your R files will be saved, right? A basic folder where you want your R files or everything that you do in R Studio will be saved. So you can set that here, right? So if you want to change the look, you go to appearance button. Here we have different themes, right? So you can click and select something. So I normally use Twilight. This is what theme I prefer. So I will click on apply. So it will automatically change your look. Also, if you want to change the position of the pen, that means if you want your console to your right and the script to your left, that can be done also. You can go to this pen layout, and here if you want your console to the top right, you can click on this drop down and select console. It will automatically swap the position of console and environment, and click apply, right? So what is the advantage of this? You can minimize this environment, minimize these files, and you have two pen, script to your left and console to your right, right? So if you want to use script and console simultaneously, so let me give an idea how we can do that. So we will go in depth about different aspects of R Studio, or basically R programming, using the IDE R Studio in our next video. But today I am just going through the different options that you can avail in R Studio, right? Or basically R programming. So this script, what is the advantage of using this script? So I have a programming, let's say 10 plus 15 plus 10 plus 20, right? So this is the programming. Obviously you will have much complex programming when you are used to R Studio or R programming. So this is a programming. Another programming is 12 minus 15 minus 10 plus 100. Suppose these are the two calculation that you want to perform in RStudio. Now see that whenever I do this, there is no outcome that is displayed, but the same calculation if I do here, 10 plus 15 plus 10 plus 20, and click enter, it will automatically display the outcome. Similarly, if I write 12 minus 15 minus 10 plus 100 and click enter, it will automatically display me the answer, that is 87. But that is not being displayed while I write the code in script. So one may be asking why we even use script. So the advantage of using script is that there is a button, right, this floppy disk icon. So if you click on this, it will ask you to save the R code. So here is my default directory or the folder that I want R programs to be saved, that is documents R project. Here I can give it a name, let's say test file, right? And if you click on save, it will automatically save the file as testfile.R. .R is the R code extension or R script extension, right? So if you close this, if I close everything, and if I go to file, open file, and if I go to this R project and search for that test file, if I click on this test file and open, it will open the code, right? So that's the advantage of saving your code in a R script, that you can open them, you can close them, and you can open them later on. So here, if you want to move this code from script to console, the option is you can go to any line and then you can click on this button run. It will automatically copy that code from your R script to the console, right? Similarly, if you want to execute this code, you can click anywhere at the beginning of the line or at the end or the middle of the line and click on this run, and it will automatically run that code in your console, right? Now if you are more of a keyboard person, the shortcut is Control Enter. If you click Control Enter in any line, it will automatically execute the code. So this is a single line execution, right? What if you want to execute all of them together? So you just simply select everything and then either press Control Enter in your keyboard or select everything and hit this run, right? It will automatically execute the code in your console. Now we have executed so many codes in our console, but you cannot save this console. Consoles are never being able to save. You can only save this script file. That's why we use script file, because script file saves files and you can reuse them in later point, right? So that is basically how you set up R programming in your Windows or Mac OS machine. The same thing. Now the shortcut for Mac is Command Enter, right, to execute a script into your console, right? So that's all for this one. Here we have discussed how you can install and set up R programming and an IDE called RStudio. The advantage of R programming and the IDE RStudio is that they are completely free, they are open source, right? So you can use them, and it is very lightweighted also, so you can use them in any kind of machine, whether you have a very basic machine with very low specs. There also you can use R and RStudio. It is not very resource heavy. So that's all for this one. See you in the next one, where we will discuss how we can do basic calculations in R and some aspects of R programming.